I've never told anyone the full story. Not my wife, not the cops, not even Ray. We just sort of stopped talking about it 2 years ago. But last night I woke up at 3:15 again, my heart pounding, and I knew I had to write it down. Maybe that'll help. Maybe not. Ray and I had been doing that late October hunt in the Gifford-Pinchot backcountry for 8 years. The drive from our town took about 3 hours, then another 40 minutes crawling up a washed-out logging spur that dead-ended at a little clearing above Hinkle Creek. No cell service, no people, just wet ferns and the steady hush of the creek. We loved it. On the morning of the 27th, we parked my F-150 in its usual spot, a muddy turnaround choked with alder saplings, and hiked the last half-mile to our camp on the ridge. The ground was soft from recent rain, the air thick with that cold, mushroomy smell you only get in late autumn. Fog clung to the treetops like dirty cotton. We set up the tent, gathered wood, and by dusk we had a good fire going. Ray grilled thick sausages on a stick, and I cracked 2 cans of Rainier. It was one of those evenings where everything feels right. No pressure, no phones buzzing, just a couple of friends bullshitting about old times. I remember Ray threw a pine cone at me and said, "If we don't see a buck tomorrow, I'm blaming your snoring." Later, when the fire had burned down to a heap of orange coals and the darkness had settled in like a wall, Ray stood up, stretched, and let out one of his trademark hollers. He cupped his hands around his mouth and yelled, "Hey-yo!" toward the valley. The sound rolled out, bounced off the far ridge, and came back to us as a clear, fading echo. We listened to it die away, grinning like idiots. For a few seconds, there was nothing. Then Ray belched and we both laughed. I don't know why I did it. Maybe to join the joke. I stood up and faced the opposite direction, toward the dark slope behind our tent, and yelled, "Oh!" at the top of my lungs. My voice cut through the damp air. Then I waited for the echo from the distant ridge. Nothing. I counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3. About 10 seconds of dead silence. Then, clear as a bell, a voice came back. "Oh!" My own call, note for note, but it came from my left, from the direction of the thick, old-growth hemlocks down by the creek, not the ridge. I turned, frowning. "That's weird," I said. Ray shrugged. "Sound does funny things in fog." He had a point. Cold air layers can bend noise. But the delay bothered me. An echo off the ridge should have taken maybe 2 seconds. 10 seconds meant that whatever bounced the sound was a hell of a lot farther away. And yet, it had come from somewhere close. Maybe a quarter mile, no more. I let it go, but the beer suddenly tasted metallic. Ray decided to test it. He faced the creek, took a breath, and yelled, "Hello!" Silence. We counted under our breath. At the 10-second mark, the answer came, except it was behind us, up the slope. A perfect "hello" in Ray's deep, gravelly voice, exactly the same length, the same slight rasp at the end. I saw Ray's back go rigid. He whipped around, his headlamp beam slashing the fog. "What the hell?" he muttered. We stood there for a long minute, listening. The forest had gone utterly still. Even the creek seemed muffled. I tried to think of an explanation. Maybe a raven? They can mimic. Ray shook his head. A raven can't mimic my voice that perfectly, Stevie. That was me. That was my own goddamn voice. My pulse began to thud in my temples. We decided to try one more time to be sure. I faced the fire, cupped my hands and shouted, "Is anyone there?" Deliberately making it a question, something no natural echo could string together. The words swallowed by the fog. We waited, breath held. 10 seconds. A voice drifted from our right, somewhere up the drainage. "Is anyone there?" It was my voice, but off. The cadence was right. The pitch was mine. but the tone felt wrong. Too flat, like a recording played back with dead air behind it. And it came from a completely new direction. That's when I knew with a sick, cold certainty that this wasn't acoustics. Something out there was listening to us. Something was throwing our voices back, moving between replies, adjusting its position. I grabbed Ray's arm. "We need to pack, right now." He didn't argue. We started shoving gear into our packs by the wavering glow of the fire. My hands shook so badly I nearly stabbed myself, snapping the blade of my Benchmade shut. Every few seconds I'd stop and listen. The silence was unbearable, like the whole mountain was holding its breath, watching. Then we heard it. Not a yell this time, a whisper. It came from the tree line, maybe 40 feet away, directly opposite the fire. The words were slow, deliberate, and even in that low, breathy register, I recognized Ray's voice. "Go towards the voice," it said. The words hung in the cold air, and for a heartbeat I felt something shift in my head, an actual pull, a fleeting urge to take a step forward. I think Ray felt it too because he made a choked noise and dropped his pack. "No, no, no," he hissed. My entire body broke out in goosebumps, the hair on my neck prickling. I grabbed the marlin from beside my chair. "Run for the truck, now." We didn't bother with the rest of the gear. Ray snatched his rifle, I swung my flashlight beam into the dark, and we bolted down the narrow trail. The ground was slick with wet leaves, and branches whipped at my face. I could hear Ray's ragged breathing right behind me. My own heartbeat sounded like a drum in my ears. Then Ray's flashlight swept left and froze. I saw it too. Between two massive hemlocks about 60 yards out stood a shape. Not a person exactly. Too tall, too pale, like a dead birch trunk that had somehow moved into the middle of the undergrowth. It didn't move. It didn't have a face that I could see, but I felt it watching. Ray made a strangled noise, and then we were running faster, crashing through ferns, not caring about the noise. We burst into the turnaround clearing, and there was the F-150, right where we left it. Relief flooded me for about half a second. Then my flashlight beam skated across the hood. I stopped so suddenly Ray slammed into my back. The hood was carved with 4 deep, parallel scratches. They were fresh, bare, bright metal gleaming through the dark green paint. The edges curled like a cat's claw marks, but far too large. Something had been right here at the truck. Maybe while we were still shouting by the fire. Maybe while we were listening. The hood was still faintly warm from our drive in, and I caught a coppery smell, like ozone and blood. Ray was already fumbling with the keys. "Get in! Get in!" The driver's door screeched open, and he dove across the seat to unlock my side. I wrenched the door open and threw myself in just as something went crack in the woods behind us. A branch snapping hard, close. Ray cranked the ignition. The engine turned over once, twice, hesitated, then caught. He floored the gas. The tires spun in the mud, throwing up a rooster tail of wet leaves, then found traction. The truck lurched forward, fishtailing down the overgrown track. In the rearview mirror, I saw nothing but the black shapes of trees and a swirl of fog lit red by our taillights. But I swear I saw something pale take a step into the track behind us, just before we rounded the bend. We didn't speak for 20 miles. Ray drove white-knuckled, his face slack, while I kept checking the side mirrors. We pulled into the Shell station in Packwood just before 5 a.m., the harsh fluorescent lights feeling like sanctuary. The station attendant took one look at us and asked if we'd hit a deer. I couldn't even answer. Ray just shook his head and bought a cup of black coffee he didn't drink. We filed a report with the county sheriff the next morning. A deputy hiked up to our campsite, Found our tent, the fire ring, our scattered gear, and nothing else. No tracks, no signs of struggle, no evidence of anyone else being there. The scratches on the hood he called likely from a branch or a bear while you were away. Sure, a branch that carved 4 perfect, evenly spaced grooves in a tight arc, like fingers. He clearly thought we'd gotten spooked by our own echoes and a curious bear. I didn't argue. What was I going to say? That our own voices hunted us. I sold my hunting rifle and all my camping gear within a month. Ray and I still text occasionally, but we don't mention the trip. Sometimes I wake up at exactly 3:15 a.m., drenched in sweat, convinced I've heard a whisper from the hallway closet. My wife thinks I'm just stressed. I let her think that. Here's the part I can't explain. A week after we got home, I was washing the F-150 in the driveway, trying to buff out the scratches on the hood. I hosed down the whole truck, and when I got to the tailgate, I found a single identical scratch on the driver's side taillight panel. Deep, fresh metal showing, same claw-like curve. I knew that truck was spotless when we parked it. I'd done a full wax the day before the trip. There is no way it was there before. And I keep thinking about what that whisper said. Go towards the voice. Because maybe we didn't go towards it. Maybe somehow a piece of it followed our voice all the way home. I still don't know what it was out there that night. I don't want to know. I just know that if you ever find yourself in deep woods and your own echo comes back 10 seconds late from the wrong direction, don't call out again. Just shut up and walk. And whatever you do, don't follow the voice. I've never written this down before, but tonight the silence got too loud, so here it is. 2 years ago, in late October, my girlfriend Lisa and I drove into Pisgah National Forest for what was supposed to be a romantic anniversary trip. No cell service, no people, just the two of us in the damp, quiet woods. I'd planned everything. Gear packed in waterproof bags, bear spray, satellite messenger. I'm an engineer. I trust preparation. Looking back, I was an idiot. We set up camp about 4 miles down a rutted Forest Service road in a small clearing surrounded by hemlock and fir. The ground was carpeted with wet needles, soft and quiet underfoot. Our tent was an MSR Hubba Hubba NX, bright orange, the kind that makes you feel invincible in the middle of nowhere. The car, a Subaru Outback, sat 20 yards away on the grassy track. We could have slept in the back, but Lisa wanted the full experience. Fire, stars, the whole thing. I was happy to oblige. The first evening was perfect, the kind of normal that makes horror feel like a betrayal. We cooked dehydrated beef stew on my old MSR pocket rocket, drank whiskey from tin cups, watched the last light bleed out of the sky. The temperature dropped fast, probably close to 35 degrees. The fog that had hung around all afternoon thickened into something that swallowed the trees whole. By 9, we doused the fire and zipped ourselves into sleeping bags. Lisa fell asleep quickly, her breathing slow and steady. I remember thinking, this is exactly what we needed. I was out within minutes. The footsteps started at 3:15 a.m. I know because I checked my watch the second I jolted awake. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Deliberate, rhythmic, on the wet pine needles outside. Not the scatter of a raccoon or the heavy tread of a bear. This was bipedal, unhurried. Lisa's hand clamped onto my forearm, her nails digging in. "Eric," she whispered, "there's someone out there." I shushed her, heart hammering, and listened. The steps were circling the tent, maybe 3 feet from the fly. Our headlamps lay in the mesh pocket above my head. I didn't dare move. The footsteps made a complete revolution and then stopped. Right in front of the door. For 20 seconds, there was absolute silence. 20 seconds when every instinct screamed run, but I was frozen, staring at the black mesh of the vestibule, waiting for a zipper to move. Then the footsteps resumed, same pace, continuing the circle. "It's probably a hunter who got lost," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "or some asshole messing with us." I didn't believe either. Hunters don't walk bare-souled with that kind of mechanical patience. Lisa said, "It stopped at the door, Eric. It knew where the door was." I had no answer. The steps kept going, circle after circle. I counted. After 10 minutes, I'd tallied at least 8 full circuits without a single break in rhythm. No sound of an approach from the woods, no sound of a departure, just that loop, as if something had been set in motion and couldn't stop. My rational brain was screaming at me to do something. I unzipped my bag, grabbed the bear spray in one hand and my black diamond headlamp in the other. "I'm going out there." Lisa grabbed my arm again. "Please don't. I have to see." I pulled on my boots, fumbling with the laces, and crawled toward the vestibule. The footsteps were on the far side of the tent at that moment, still moving. I burst through the outer zipper and stood up, thumb on the spray trigger, headlamp beam punching into the fog. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The beam swept the clearing, the tree line, the car. Fog swirled in the light, making the trees look like they were swaying, but no person, no animal, no eyeshine. The footsteps had stopped the instant I emerged, as if whatever made them had simply dissolved. Silence except for my own ragged breathing. I walked around the tent, staying close, and that's when I saw the prints. In the damp, needle-covered soil, a perfect ring of bare human footprints encircled our shelter. I knelt down. The toes were deep, the arches crisp, as if someone had walked with calm, deliberate weight. I followed them around and kept following. The circle was unbroken. There was no place where the tracks joined a trail from the woods. No approach, no exit. Just a continuous, closed loop of steps. I counted the circuits by the faint overlapping at certain points. There were at least 10, probably more. My throat closed up. "Lisa," I called, my voice cracking. "Stay inside." I did another full walk around, checking the soft ground beyond the circle. Virgin, not a single mark. It was as if a ghost had dropped from the sky, walked in a loop all night, and then vanished. My hands were shaking so hard the headlamp beam jittered. I crawled back inside. Lisa was sitting up, pale. I told her what I'd found, and I saw her face change, fear sliding into something deeper. We sat in the dark, not speaking, for what felt like hours. The footsteps didn't return. At first light, we unzipped the tent like peeling back a scab. The prints were still there, even clearer under the gray dawn. I took photos with my phone, shaky shots that I later wished I'd never saved. Lisa pointed to something at the tent's threshold, a smooth gray river stone, about the size of a chicken egg, sitting perfectly centered on the flattened grass where we crawled in and out. It hadn't been there when we went to sleep. There were no streams nearby for at least a mile. "We're leaving," I said. No argument from Lisa. We tore down camp in record time, throwing gear into the Subaru, not even bothering to roll the sleeping bags properly. The fog had lifted slightly, but the silence remained thick. As I was cramming the tent into its stuff sack, I heard it. A whisper from the tree line, low and breathy, like someone speaking right into my ear, but from 20 yards away. "Eric!" My head snapped up. Nothing. The woods were still. Lisa was already in the passenger seat, window down, and she hadn't heard it. I didn't mention it. I just got in, threw the keys in the ignition, and turned. Click, click, click. Dead. The battery was completely drained. Lights, radio, everything. The dome light had been off. I checked. There was no reason for it to die. I could have screamed. My Noco boost pack was buried in the cargo area. I had to unpack half our stuff to find it, hands trembling so badly I dropped it twice. Lisa sat rigid, scanning the tree line. I clipped the booster to the terminals, prayed, and turned the key. The engine coughed, then caught. I revved the piss out of it, slammed it into reverse, and fishtailed onto the track. The road out was a one-lane ribbon of mud and fog. I drove too fast, branches screeching along the doors. About a mile from camp, a figure stepped into the road, human-shaped, but the fog made it look like a smudge, a cutout. I stood on the brakes, yanked the wheel, and the car slid sideways, missing it by inches. Lisa screamed. I looked in the rearview mirror. Nothing. Empty road. Fog closing like a curtain. I didn't stop until we hit pavement. When the phone finally grabbed a signal, I called 911. A sheriff deputy and a forest ranger met us at the Packwood station. We told them everything. They drove back with us to the campsite that afternoon. The stone was gone. I must have left it. But the footprints. Heavy rain last night, the ranger said, apologetic. Washed everything clean. They found no other tracks, no evidence of anyone else having been in that clearing for weeks. The officer gave us the look you give crazy people who've watched too many movies. That was that, except it wasn't. In the months that followed, I stopped sleeping. Every night, I'd lie in bed and hear that whisper, Eric, echoing in the static of my ceiling fan. Lisa tried to hold us together, but every time I flinched at a floorboard creak, I saw her pull away a little more. By Christmas, she was gone. I don't blame her. I'd become a man who double-checked locks 6 times and couldn't close his eyes without seeing a perfect circle of bare feet in the mud. Then about a month after she left, I came home to my apartment in Belltown, went into the bedroom, and stopped dead. On my nightstand next to the lamp I now keep on 24/7, sat a smooth gray river stone, the same one I'd thrown into the woods before we fled. I know I threw it. I remember the thud it made against a tree. It was clean, dry, and warm to the touch, as if it had been held in someone's hand. The police found no sign of forced entry. My building's security cameras showed no one at my door. I still have the stone. It sits on my desk as I write this, a paperweight for the part of my brain that can't let go. To this day, I don't know what walked circles around our tent that night. I don't know how something can leave footprints but no trail. I don't know why it stopped at the door or why it whispered my name. But I do know one thing. I will never, ever set foot in the woods again.